It was night, and the October wind was shaking the oak trees surrounding the big house. A lamp flickered in an upstairs window, still burning late. Below, in the row of slave cabins, a 9-year-old girl sat on a limestone rock, waiting for her mother. Her name was Laila. Laila's mother, Jamila, had gone to the big house at dawn and had not yet returned. The girl's eyes were heavy, but sleep had fled from her like a whipped dog. Yesterday evening, as she gathered corn stalks in the field, she had seen her father being led away by 2 men on horseback. They carried ropes. When her father saw her, he tried to smile, but his eyes were wet. "Be brave, Laila," he had said. "Take care of your mother." They were his last words. Now, late at night, when the entire quarters were asleep, Laila saw a dark shadow emerge from the back door of the big house. It was Jamila. She was not walking, she was crawling. One hand pressed against her back, the other against the wall for support. Laila ran to her. Drawing closer, she saw dark stains on the back of her mother's black dress. Wetness. And that wetness looked black in the moonlight. "Nothing, child," Jamila said, biting her lip. "Come, let's go to the cabin." But she never made it. On the path, she collapsed and could not rise again. Laila screamed for help. Old Granny came out, dragged Jamila inside, and poured salt water on her wounds. Jamila spoke not a single word. She just stared at the ceiling, where the wind crept through. By morning, Jamila was burning with fever. Her body blazed and she lost consciousness. Granny pushed Laila outside. "Go work in the fields," she said. "Standing here will get you nothing." Laila disobeyed. She sat behind the cabin and began drawing lines in the dirt with her finger. Her nail dug into the earth as she wondered where her father might be. Was he lying somewhere like this too? Was his back also wet? 3 days later, Jamila died. Before passing, she called Laila to her and said, "I have nothing to give you, daughter. No cloth, no jewelry, no bread. Only one thing I can give you. Remember what you have seen. Whatever you hear, keep it in your heart. Your body belongs to them, but your memory belongs to you. No one can take that." With these words, Jamila closed her eyes. Granny covered her face and hummed an old song softly. Laila went outside. Clouds gathered in the sky and the autumn air was cold. She sat behind the cabin and began drawing lines in the dirt again. But this time, the lines were different. They were letters. Letters that the master's son had secretly taught her. Laila wrote in the dirt, "Mother." Then she erased that word. Because now there was no mother. Only dirt remained. And on that dirt were inscriptions that no one would ever read. Laila was born in the spring of 1842, in the same cabin where she now lived alone. The mud walls of that cabin dissolved in rain and the thatched roof always leaked. The night she was born, a storm came. Granny, who was young then, had helped Jamila. Looking at the baby, she said, "This child came in water. There is something special in her." Jamila did not answer. She was exhausted and her milk had dried because she herself received no food. The baby was hungry and began to cry. Granny mixed cornmeal with water and fed her with a spoon. The baby opened her eyes and fell silent. Laila's father was named Bashir. He worked in the stables, tending to the horses. He was a tall, quiet man whose fingers were always tangled with horsehair. When he walked, his steps were light as a horse's. Master William trusted him enough to let him work in the stables unsupervised. But that trust was worthless. One day, when Laila was only 3, Master William's brother came from New Orleans. He saw Bashir and said he needed a man who understood horses. Master William raised no objection. Bashir was informed that very evening that he would leave with his new master tomorrow morning. Jamila wept all night. Bashir tried to comfort her, but his own eyes were dry. He knew tears were useless. Early morning, before the sun had even risen, he got up. Laila was asleep. Bashir kissed her forehead, so lightly she would not wake. Then he left. When Laila woke, her father was gone. She ran outside and looked toward the stables. A stranger was working there. Laila asked Jamila, "Where is Abba?" Jamila lifted her into her lap and said, "He has gone far away. He will return." But he never did. After that day, Jamila grew silent. She continued working, but the light in her eyes had vanished. At night, she would hold Laila tightly in her sleep, as if afraid someone might take her too. Laila was growing. At 4, she learned to feed the chickens. At 5, she carried water to the fields. At 6, she watched a boy, only a little older than herself, whipped because he fell asleep and failed to stop a runaway goat. That night, Laila asked her mother, "Why?" Jamila gave no answer. She just held her daughter close and wept. It was 1848. Laila was now 6, and like other children her age, she was put to work. She had to labor in the cotton fields. Early morning, while it was still dark, the overseer would blow his whistle and all slaves had to go to the fields. Cold or hot, rain or shine, no excuse was accepted. The cotton fields stretched endlessly. As far as the eyes could see, only white bolls appeared. Each plant bore dozens of bolls that had to be picked. Laila was given a sack larger than herself. She would hang it around her neck and walk between the plants, picking cotton. Her fingers were small, so they tired quickly. But when the overseer's gaze fell upon her, she would speed up. The overseer's name was Mr. Thompson. He was a middle-aged white man with a sun-scorched face and eyes perpetually filled with suspicion. He rode on horseback, whip in hand. He rarely shouted, but his silence was more terrifying. When he passed near anyone, the sound of hooves increased the heartbeat. One day, an old woman named Elizabeth fell in the field. She was over 60, with a bent back. She collapsed trying to lift her heavy sack of cotton. Mr. Thompson stopped his horse and watched. Then he slowly approached. "Get up," he said. Elizabeth tried but could not. Her face was smeared with mud and she gasped for breath. Mr. Thompson dismounted and struck her with his whip. Once, twice. Elizabeth raised her arm to shield herself, but the whip landed on her back. She screamed. Laila stood nearby, watching it all. She squeezed the cotton ball in her hand tightly. After the third lash, Elizabeth somehow managed to rise to her knees. Mr. Thompson watched her, then mounted his horse and moved on. Elizabeth picked up her sack and resumed working. Tears streamed down her face, but she made no sound. Laila could not sleep that night. She lay in the cabin beside Jamila, the scene replaying before her eyes. She thought, if Elizabeth is so old, why must she work? If she fell, why was she beaten? If she dies, what will happen? She had no answers. Only questions. And those questions burrowed into her heart like worms. One day, when Laila was 7, Master William's wife, Mrs. Eleanor, noticed her. She sat on the veranda, watching the cotton fields. Her gaze fell upon Laila, who was carrying a water jug toward the fields. Mrs. Eleanor called Mr. Thompson and said she liked that girl. Her eyes were large and she looked clean. She needed a little maid in the house. Within days, Laila was sent to the big house. She was told she would now serve Mrs. Eleanor. Jamila prepared her. They had no good clothes, only the coarse fabric she already wore. Jamila combed Laila's hair and said, "In the big house, keep your eyes down. Do not open your mouth. Do whatever they say." Laila nodded. She understood. The big house was enormous. Its pillars were tall and its stairs wide. Inside, the floors shone with polished wood and portraits hung on the walls. Laila had never seen such beautiful things in her life. She hesitated at the door until Mrs. Eleanor called, "Come in, girl." Mrs. Eleanor was a beautiful woman of 40, with golden hair and blue eyes. She always wore silk dresses and carried a fan. Laila feared her, because her smile never reached her eyes. Laila's duties were small ones. Washing dishes, sweeping floors, dusting Mrs. Eleanor's clothes, fetching whatever she needed. She rose early and slept late. She was not allowed to sleep in the big house. She returned to the cabin to Jamila. There was another person in the big house who caught Laila's attention. He was Master William's son, Charles. He was 2 years older than Laila, with a nature entirely different from his father's. He was quiet and thoughtful, spending most of his time reading books. His mother wanted him to ride horses outdoors, but he preferred sitting in his room, cut off from the world. One day, as Laila swept the veranda, Charles came out. A book was in his hand. He saw Laila and paused. Then he approached. "What is your name?" he asked. Laila quickly lowered her eyes. "Laila, sir." Charles nodded. He sat down near her and opened his book. Laila continued sweeping, but her eyes were on the book. She had never seen one before. Inside were strange lines, arranged in rows. Charles noticed her gaze. "Can you read?" Laila quickly shook her head. "No, sir. Slaves are not taught to read." Charles was silent. Then he said softly, "But you could learn." That was the moment that changed Laila's life. Charles began teaching Laila. It was not formal education, but a series of secret lessons snatched when opportunity arose. When Mrs. Eleanor rested, when Master William went to town, when other servants were busy, the two would meet. Charles taught Laila letters. First A, then B. Laila learned quickly. Her memory was sharp. Whatever she saw once, she never forgot. Charles was amazed. "How do you remember all this?" he asked one day. Laila said, "My mother told me my memory belongs to me. I am strengthening it." Charles looked at her. Something flickered in his eyes, perhaps wonder, perhaps envy, perhaps something else. Within months, Laila could read simple sentences. She would write in the dirt and then erase. She never used paper, because paper was dangerous. If anyone caught her writing on paper, it would be assumed she was plotting something. So the earth was her best friend. One day, she sat behind the cabin writing when Granny saw her. The old woman silently approached and looked at what Laila had written. Laila was terrified. She began quickly erasing the lines. Granny caught her hand. "Don't be afraid, child." Laila looked into her eyes. There was no anger there, only a strange wetness. Granny said, "I too learned to read once. Long ago, when I was small. My mother taught me. She came from Africa and knew many tongues." Laila was astonished. "Then why did you stop reading?" Granny sighed. "Because reading is poison for a slave. If you read, you will question. If you question, you will suffer." But Laila did not stop. She kept reading, kept writing, kept learning from Charles. Charles would tell her stories. He read about faraway lands, about oceans and mountains, about people who were free. Laila would listen and think, is there really a world where people are free? Do they get whipped there? Are mothers sold there? These questions had no answers, but they planted a seed in Laila's heart. That seed was silent, but it was alive. It was the summer of 1850. Laila was now 8, and her work in the big house was going well. Mrs. Eleanor was satisfied with her, because Laila remained silent and completed her tasks quickly. But that year, an incident occurred that changed everything. Mrs. Eleanor's precious necklace went missing. It was a sapphire necklace her mother had given her. In a rage, Mrs. Eleanor searched the entire house. All the servants' clothes and cabins were searched. The necklace was not found. Mrs. Eleanor's suspicion fell upon a young girl named Tilly. Tilly was 16 and worked in the kitchen. Mrs. Eleanor claimed Tilly had stolen it because she was the last one in the room. Tilly wept. She swore she had not stolen it. But Mrs. Eleanor was unconvinced. She called Mr. Thompson and ordered that Tilly be whipped before everyone, to teach the others a lesson. Laila stood watching. Tilly was tied to a post and Mr. Thompson raised his whip. The first blow fell, and Tilly screamed. The second blow drew blood from her back. On the third, she fainted. But Mr. Thompson did not stop. He delivered 12 lashes, as ordered. That night, Laila could not sleep. She lay in the cabin, listening to Tilly's moans from near the kitchen. No one was tending her wounds. There was no money for a slave doctor. The next day, the necklace was found. It had fallen under Mrs. Eleanor's sofa. Mrs. Eleanor didn't even glance at Tilly. She simply said, "Oh, it was found." Tilly received no apology, no compensation. Scars marked her back forever, and she was never the same. That day, Laila learned something. She learned that justice meant nothing here. Whoever had power was right. And whoever was weak just had to endure. That night, she sat behind the cabin and wrote in the dirt, "Tilly was innocent." Then she erased those words. But she knew that erasing them did not change the truth. Spring of 1851 arrived. Laila was now 9, and her mother Jamila still worked in the fields. She had grown weak, her back bent, dark circles under her eyes. But she still worked, because not working was worse than death. One day, Master William announced he would sell some slaves. He needed money because his crop had failed. He named 6 slaves. Among them was Jamila. When Laila learned this, she ran to her mother. Jamila stood in the field, cotton sack in hand. Laila clutched her and said, "Mama, you cannot go." Jamila looked at her. Her eyes were dry. She could no longer cry, she had exhausted her tears long ago. She stroked Laila's hair and said, "Daughter, I am not going. They are taking me." Laila screamed, "I will speak to the master. I will tell him not to take you." Jamila stopped her. "Don't go. Nothing will change. They will not listen." But Laila did not listen. She ran to the big house and stood before Master William. He was in his study, examining papers. He looked up, surprised to see her. "What is it?" he asked. Laila knelt and said, "Sir, please do not sell my mother. She is sick, she cannot work much. If you sell her, she will die." Master William looked at her. His face showed no emotion. He said, "The decision is made. Go do your work." Laila pleaded again, "Sir, I beg you." Master William rose, opened the door, and called to a servant outside, "Take her away." Laila was dragged out forcibly. She collapsed in the garden and wept. That night, when darkness fell, she sat behind the cabin and wrote in the dirt, "Today my father left. Today my mother is leaving. Tomorrow, where will I go?" The next morning, Jamila was put on a boat and sent across the Mississippi River. Laila watched her go. She watched from an upstairs window of the big house, where she was cleaning Mrs. Eleanor's room. Jamila looked back. Her eyes searched for something, perhaps for Laila, perhaps for the house where she had spent 20 years, perhaps for the memory of her husband Bashi. Then the boat turned and vanished from sight. Laila swallowed her tears. She did not return to the cabin, because there was no one there now. She began living in the big house, in a small room near the kitchen. She had no one. After Jamila left, Laila grew even more silent. She worked as before, but the light in her eyes had died. Charles noticed and understood something terrible had happened. One day, he found her in the garden, pulling weed shoots. "Laila," he called. Laila looked up. Her eyes were swollen. Charles approached. In his hand was a small book. He held it out to her. "This is for you." Laila took the book and looked at it. It was old, its pages yellowed. There was no name on it. Charles said, "It's an old book of my mother's. There are stories inside. I want you to keep it." Laila said, "But if someone sees it?" Charles interrupted, "No one will see. Hide it well. Read at night, when everyone sleeps." Laila concealed the book in her clothes. She knew it was terribly dangerous. If this book was discovered, she would be whipped, perhaps worse. But she could not let it go. It was like her mother, like her father, a companion in her loneliness. That night, when the whole house slept, Laila lit an earthen lamp in her tiny room and opened the book. The letters were those Charles had taught her. Slowly, she began to read. It was a story about a girl who lived across the ocean in some far country. That girl was brave and faced many hardships. In the end, she succeeded. Laila closed the book and extinguished the lamp. She lay in the darkness, thinking, can I be as brave as that girl? Can I ever succeed? There were no answers, but the book showed her a new path. Now she knew that the world held more than just these cotton fields. Something else existed. And that something was beyond her reach, but not impossible. September arrived. The cotton was ready, and work in the fields continued around the clock. Laila too went to the fields, because Mrs. Eleanor said there was less work in the big house, so she should help in the fields. One afternoon, when the sun was directly overhead and the heat at its peak, Laila was picking cotton. Suddenly she saw riders approaching in the distance. They carried guns. Laila recognized them, slave catchers. Mr. Thompson immediately stopped all work. All slaves were gathered and told that 3 slaves had escaped from neighboring plantations. They were probably hiding in this area. Anyone who saw them and failed to report would be severely punished. Laila saw nothing that day, but at night, as she slept, she heard sounds outside. She rose and looked through the window. It was a moonlit night, and she saw 2 men running toward the stables. They wore no shoes and seemed terrified. Laila instantly understood, these were the runaway slaves. They wanted to hide in the stables. Her heart pounded. What should she do? If she remained silent and it was discovered tomorrow that she had seen them, she would be punished. But if she screamed and woke everyone, these 2 men would be caught. They would be taken back, whipped, perhaps killed. She crept outside. Moving toward the stables, she found the door closed. Inside, faint whispers could be heard. She knocked. A voice from within asked, "Who is it?" Laila said, "I am Laila. A slave. Do not come out. There will be a search tomorrow morning. Do not stay here." Silence inside, then a voice, "Show us the way." Laila thought. She remembered the paths she had discovered as a child while playing. The route to the Mississippi River, through the forest. She knew there was less patrol there. She whispered directions, "Go south from behind the stables. Enter the forest. There's an old path leading to the river. Boats are tied there. Hurry." The voice replied, "May God reward you, child." Then the door opened and 2 shadows emerged. They did not even look at Laila, they just ran. Laila stood watching until they disappeared into darkness. By saving those men, Laila discovered a new strength within herself. She was no longer just a child, she could do something. She thought, if I can help others, can I help myself? Can I ever run away? This idea entered her mind and took root. She read at night, worked during the day, and planned her escape. She memorized river routes, tracked moonlit nights, and identified those who might help runaways. One day, she met an old man named Wahhabi. Wahhabi worked on neighboring plantations but often passed through this area. He was silent, spoke little, but his eyes held cunning. People said he was connected to the Underground Railroad. One day, Laila saw Wahhabi near the stables, watering horses. She approached and said, "You Wahhabi?" He looked up. His beard was white, his face lined with wrinkles. He looked at Laila, then glanced around to ensure no one was watching. "What do you want, child?" Laila said softly, "I want to run away." Wahhabi stared at her. Then he laughed, very quietly. "You want to run away? How old are you?" 9. A 9-year-old girl running away? Where will you go? Wolves will eat you in the forest, patrols will catch you, snakes will bite you. Laila said, "I am not afraid." Wahhabi looked into her eyes. He thought for a moment, then said, "If you truly want to run, first learn to wait. Wait for the right time. I will tell you when to go." Laila nodded. She understood that Wahhabi would help her. After that, Wahhabi would come occasionally and teach Laila signs. which trees hid water, which places patrols avoided, whose houses offered shelter for the night. Laila remembered everything. She would draw maps in the dirt and then erase them, but fate had other plans. One day, Charles fell ill. He had a high fever and could not leave his bed for days. Mrs. Eleanor was worried and called a doctor. The doctor said Charles had malaria and needed rest. In Charles's absence, Laila felt terribly alone. She could not talk to him, could not ask for books. But she did not realize that Charles's illness would bring another calamity. One day, Mr. Thompson summoned Laila. He stood near the stables, his face carrying that silent, dangerous look. Laila's heart skipped a beat. "Come inside," he said. Inside the stables was a small room where Mr. Thompson sat. On his table lay papers and a whip. Laila saw the whip and her body trembled. Mr. Thompson picked up a paper and showed it to her. "What is this?" Laila looked at the paper. It had lines drawn on it, a map of sorts, and some words. Her breath stopped. It was the map she had drawn in the dirt one night, before erasing it. Someone had seen it. Someone had told the master. Mr. Thompson said, "Did you draw this map? You can read? You can write?" Laila remained silent. Her mind would not function. Mr. Thompson rose and approached her. "Do you know that reading and writing are forbidden for slaves? Do you know the punishment?" Laila lowered her eyes. She said, "No one taught me. I learned myself." Mr. Thompson picked up the whip. "Who was it? Who taught you?" Laila did not give Charles's name. She could not bring trouble upon Charles, even if it meant punishment for herself. "No one," she said. Mr. Thompson struck the first blow. Laila fell. She did not scream. She gritted her teeth and remained silent. A second blow, a third. Her back burned, but she stayed quiet. After 12 lashes, she lost consciousness. When she awoke, she was in her cabin. Granny was pouring salt water on her wounds. Laila closed her eyes in pain. She thought, now how will she run? Now how will she walk? But another thought came to her, she would not tell Charles. She would protect him, even if it meant her own death. The marks remained on Laila's back. They would never fade, like the marks on her mother's back, like the marks on her father's back. She could move and walk now, but her spirit was wounded. When Charles recovered and learned what had happened, he came to Laila and wept seeing her wounds. "Forgive me," he said. "This happened because of me." Laila looked at him. There was no reproach in her eyes. "Not because of you," she said. "Because of this system that enslaves us." Charles stared at her. He was amazed that such a small child could speak such big words. He said, "I will help you. I will get you out of here." But Laila had no faith. She knew Charles's power was limited. He himself was a prisoner of this house, a prisoner of his father's laws. He could change nothing. A few days later, Master William decided Laila should be removed from the big house. She would no longer work there, but in the fields, where she could be watched. Mrs. Eleanor raised no objection. To her, Laila was just a servant, and servants could be replaced. Laila returned to the fields. Now she picked cotton from dawn to dusk, burning in the sun, collapsing exhausted into her cabin at night. She could not read, because hiding a book had become too dangerous. She could not write in the dirt, because someone had spied on her. She was just silent, just worked, just tried to survive. But inside, she was doing something else. She was remembering. She remembered everything she had seen, heard, felt. She remembered the paths Wahhabi had shown her. She remembered the books Charles had taught her. She remembered her mother's last words, "Your memory belongs to you." October 1851 brought storms. One night came unlike any before. The wind uprooted trees, rain drowned the fields, and the Mississippi River overflowed its banks. Lightning flashed and thunder shook the earth. That night, Laila sat alone in her cabin, soaked because the roof leaked. Suddenly, a knock came at the door. She was frightened. Who could come at such an hour? Opening the door, she found Wahhabi standing there. He was drenched from head to toe, and his face held a strange glow. "Tonight is the night to run," he said. "No one patrols in this storm. The river has risen, boats are ready. If you don't run tonight, you never will." Layla's heart pounded. She knew Wahhabi spoke truth. This opportunity might never come again. But she was weak, her back wounds not yet healed, and the storm raged outside. She looked at Wahhabi. "I am ready." She stepped out of the cabin. Rain pelted her face, wind tried to knock her down. Wahhabi grabbed her hand and they ran toward the forest. The path was treacherous. Feet slipped in mud, darkness blinded them, water everywhere. Layla fell, rose, fell again. But Wahhabi never let go of her hand, dragging her along. After what seemed hours, they reached the riverbank. A small boat was tied to a tree. 2 men already sat inside. Layla recognized them, the same 2 men she had helped escape from the stables. Seeing Layla, they smiled. One said, "You helped us that night, tonight we help you." Layla climbed into the boat. Wahhabi untied the rope and the boat drifted into the river. The current was swift, the boat rocking dangerously. Layla looked back. In the distance, through the darkness, she saw lights from the big house, flickering in the storm. Those lights grew dimmer and dimmer until they vanished. Layla closed her eyes. Rain washed her face. She did not know what lay ahead, but she knew one thing, she would never go back. The boat traveled all night. When the storm subsided, the first rays of morning appeared. Layla saw the sun. It was beautiful, more beautiful than she had ever seen it. Perhaps because now she saw it with free eyes. The boat landed near a small village where some black people lived. Wahhabi said they were free people, who had come from the north. He took Layla to an old woman's house named May. May saw Layla and embraced her. "Poor child," she said. "You are safe now." Layla stayed at May's house. She changed clothes, ate food, and for the first time slept in a clean bed. That night, as she slept, she dreamed. She saw her mother standing beside her, smiling. Her mother said, "Daughter, you did what I could not do." Layla woke with tears in her eyes. But they were not tears of sorrow, they were tears of joy. After a few days, Wahhabi took Layla northward. They traveled by night, hid by day. Sometimes they found shelter in someone's home, sometimes they slept in forests. Once, they were nearly spotted by patrols, but they hid in a field and escaped. Finally, they reached Ohio, a free state. Layla stepped onto free soil for the first time. She bent down and touched the earth. It was cold, damp, but it tasted different. It tasted of freedom. Next morning, a search was conducted, but the 2 men were not found. Mr. Thompson was furious, but could do nothing. Layla felt a strange joy in her heart. She had done something right, even if the law called it wrong. But she knew the secret of that night would remain in her heart forever. If it was ever discovered, she would face death. In Ohio, Layla came to live with a kind family who helped escaped slaves. They taught her to read and write properly, not in secret. Layla learned quickly, because her mind was not empty, she already knew so much. One day, she decided to write her story. She bought an old diary with yellow pages and began recording everything she had seen, heard, felt. She wrote, "My name is Layla. My mother's name was Jamila and my father's name was Bashir. I ran away at 9 years old, on the stormy night of 1851. I saw everything a child should not see, but I remembered it all. Because my mother said my memory belongs to me, and no one can take it." She wrote the names of those who had died, who had been sold, who had escaped. She drew a map of the big house, sketched the field lines, and marked the places where she had witnessed suffering. Years later, when Layla had grown up and had children of her own, she would show them that diary. She would say, "Remember where we came from. Remember what we saw. Because if you do not remember, then it will all have been for nothing. Many years passed. Laila grew old and one day left this world. Her children kept her diary, then her grandchildren, until the diary lay buried in an old trunk. Then, in 2024, a young woman who was Laila's great-great-granddaughter was renovating her house. She found an old trunk hidden in a wall. Opening it, she discovered a diary with yellowed pages and faded ink. She opened it and read the first page. This diary belongs to Laila, born in 1842, died in 1910. She began writing it in 1851, when she was 9 years old and had escaped to freedom. In this diary is everything she saw, heard, and never forgot. The young woman read the diary. She wept. She called her mother, her grandmother, and they all read it together. They heard Laila's voice, reaching them across the years. Today, when we read this story, we remember Laila. The girl who was 9 when she grabbed a boat in a storm. The girl who watched her mother sold, her father taken, who bore whip scars on her back. The girl who learned to read and write and made it her strength. Laila's diary now rests in a museum. Its pages are yellow, its ink faded, but its words live on. They tell us that those who were enslaved were not just numbers, they were human beings. They had their own stories, their own dreams, their own hopes. The big house where Laila lived still stands today. It has been converted into a historical building. Tourists visit and admire its beauty. But no one knows what happened within those walls. No one knows how many Lailas lived and died on that property. But now, because of this diary, at least one Laila's voice can be heard. That voice says, "Remember me. Do not forget me. Because if you forget me, then I will truly die."